Beautiful day, Patriots. How are you? Q is biblical, correct? So let's talk about biblical things. We're reading the Holy Bible, and our next day, day 70, will be starting off with John. The Gospel according to John. So let's talk a little bit about John just for a second. And it's relevant right now. Now, John had we're going to go backwards for a minute. John was a prisoner and had his head cut off, right? John also baptized Jesus, correct? John was in the wilderness waiting for Jesus' coming, correct? And telling people about it, correct? And John was killed by the government, the king, the ruler. And we've been learning about how, it's not that we're learning, that the Bible has Egypt all throughout it. The pharaohs, the pyramids. And John was in the wilderness, and he was known to have been, it is told in the Bible, that he lived off of honey and locusts. Correct? And if we think about this for a second, could you imagine how angry the pharaohs or whatever disguise that group of people used? Could you imagine how angry they would be at John, being that to sustain himself, he ate a plague. One of the plagues that wiped out Egypt was that the locusts came and devoured all the food. Is that not true? That's in the Bible. It's also a documental fact, if that what I mean on that. That's provable also through trusting your science that event did happen. So imagine if you are the pharaohs and these witches, and you are sitting there trying to do all these things by keeping Noah there. And Noah's telling you about all these plagues that are coming, and the locusts come. And he escapes the pharaohs. And then generations later, John shows up, sustaining his life on the plague that destroyed them. Can you imagine? Of course they cut his head off. Regardless. So let's just slow down for a minute, all right? So you can see I've got the dictionary out for a reason. Right now in America, we're having a plague, correct? It's not the first plague in the world. There's been all kinds of different plagues. All kinds. And it usually, if we look in the Bible here, we can see that the plagues that in the Bible were spiritual. They were spiritual plagues. It was Noah and the scribes fighting with each other. Correct? Both of their staffs turned into snakes, did it not? So, John is eating locusts to sustain himself. The plague that destroyed their empire. Just one of the plagues, but a major plague. So let's look at the word locus. Now again, remember, this is the King James Version. Okay? And English is a new language, and it is a witchcraft language. And if we look at locus and spell it backwards, it says TSU, sorry about the sunshine, COL, right? TSUCOL. And if we look in the dictionary, TSU is an abbreviation for this side up. Let's see, is that this one? TSU, yep, TSU. It's abbreviation. It's the only one in there. This side up. As above, so below. As above, so below. This side up. This side up. To hear a different story? I don't know. And then COL. What does COL stand for? What does COL stand for? There it is. There is a bunch of different definitions. This one right here, all capped. It's abbreviation for cost of living. Cost of living. What was the cost of John the Baptist for living off of locusts, waiting for the coming of Jesus Christ? His head was cut off. If we look at locusts this way, it was a plague in Egypt that destroyed the empire of Egypt. If we mirror it like the witches do, because English is a language that was created by Satan himself for the witches. And if we do and look at it backwards, it says right here, this side up, the cost of living. The story of John, as he lost his life, it was the cost of him living, waiting for the coming of Jesus Christ. Are you waiting for a Republican? Are you waiting for a man to come back and save you? How much time do you have left in your life to be able to understand the difference between deception and your soul? I don't know. Only God knows how many more days and hours you have left in your life. What will you be doing when the time comes that either A, Jesus comes back, or you die? What will you be caught doing at that moment and hour when your personal rapture happens? I repeat, will you be sitting there saying, time out? I've got to cast my vote next week. Can we deal with this later? I'm hoping that Donald Trump, or any man, becomes president, because I've fallen for the deception. So, etymology is an absolutely 100% real, absolute real, let's use the word science, of how the English language is put together. They take words from different languages and take parts and pieces of it together, put it together to put one word together, the English language. And if you want to study words, you go in the dictionary to see what the words mean, and then they break them down in syllables, and each one of these syllables has a definition of where that part of the world came from, what language it came from, the history of it, etymology. And since the English language was created by witchcrafts to hide the truth, they mirror it backwards, as we are discovering, learning, and showing. So people sit there and say, oh, the cost of living is going to be easy. I'm going to run into the mountains, or I'll just... Man, what happened to John the Baptist? He didn't just get his head cut off like that. Look how long he was tortured in prison. And think about the prisons back then. What would they do to you now? What would they do to you now? Find Jesus Christ, my friends, please. God bless you.